Hello, this is Nathan Webb, and this is a tutorial on how to get a biped ball character to kick a ball. We'll start off by, I drew some storyboards. The basic idea was to have the character walk a couple steps, look at the ball, and then kick it off the screen. So, in my notebook, I just drew the character. He's going to walk over, look at the ball, anticipate, he's going to bring his foot back, kicks the ball off the screen, and then looks at the screen happy. Nothing real fancy, but should get the job done. This character is called SimpleBot. I got it off Creative Crash, the website. It's right here. Appreciate the people who rigged this. It's a fun character to play around with. And the ball rig is, I forgot where I got that from, but it's most likely off of Creative Crash as well. You can use the controller on top to squash and stretch it. Use the one in the middle to rotate it. This main controller here translates the ball around. There's also a squash and stretch controller on the bottom, and I put the ramp shader on the ball so you can see it rotate. So to get started, I'm going to bring up my storyboard and pose the character like the storyboard's posed. I want to make a camera. I always want to animate to the camera, so I'm going to create a new camera. I'll go to perspective and I'll just duplicate it, Control D. Oh, I'm using Maya 2011 in this, but all these things should work in most any version of Maya. I'll call it render cam, and I want to change my camera so I'm looking through this, so I'll go to perspective and then render camera. It looks like nothing happened, but I'm going to take this camera and show its resolution. I'm going to hit the resolution gate, and it draws a little outline, and this is just what's going to be rendered. It's going to render at 640 by 480. If you want it to render at different settings, you can go to the render options over here, display render options, and I'm going to use the middle ray render. Doesn't really matter, but under the presets for image size, I'm going to do it HD. I'm going to scroll down, HD 720, and hit close. That's 1280 by 720. And one other thing I want to do with the render camera is if I make my window smaller, it gets cut off. I don't want to have my camera view get cut off, so I'm going to go to the options for the camera, select the camera, hit Control A to go to the attribute editor, and I'm going to change the options over here to the overscan options. That's our fit resolution gate. Right now it's turned to fill. I'm going to change it over to overscan. That way, no matter what my render size is or the panel size is, I'll still see the same resolution in my camera. It'll still keep the same proportions and won't be cut off. So I'm going to be rendering through my render camera, and I'm going to go ahead and just frame it up so we can see the character, see the ball. I have a little simple ground plane for the ground. It's just a box. I put it on a layer. So something like this will work. And now that we have our camera framed, I don't want to animate my camera. It's just going to be one shot. So I'll take my render camera, pick my translation down through my rotation by using the shift button. I'm going to right click and go to lock selected. This way, you see it's gray here. I won't be able to rotate my camera. I don't want to accidentally rotate it. If I go in here and want to pick things on my character, I'll use my perspective view. I'll go to panels perspective and change over to the perspective view. So I can pick stuff in here, move my character around however I want. This is his foot controller. You can rotate it. This is his knee controller. You can rotate that around to move his knee. This is his body controller. Translate him up and down. Notice his knees bend nicely. You can rotate his body, translate it around. If you move it too high, you see the feet go off the ground. So you want to make sure you keep the character's feet on the ground here. There's also some nice options to roll the feet on the ground. If you pick the box behind his feet, you see these custom attributes. They have one for foot roll. That'll move the foot back and forth. That's great for walking. Same thing with this one. There's a bunch of different options too. You can make the toe go up and down. He could tap his toe. There's quite a few other ones. There is an option to make the legs stretch up and down if you want as well, but we don't need to bother with that right now. I'm just going to have his feet on the ground. And if you want to move his eyes around, they have a separate panel for this. Go to Panels, Perspective, and you see there's a Face Cam option. I'm going to go to Face Cam. Here we go. And you see all these sliders. These move different things like the blinks, the antenna, the mouth, but you can't see your character. You could go in a multi-camera view, but what I like doing is go to Panels and then Tear Off. So I tear off this and I can float it around. You can do that with any panel in Maya. And then I'll go back here to my perspective view, and then we can see our robot guy. And then now I can change these things, like make them blink. You translate these up and down, it makes the character blink. You can make the brow go up and down. I changed this a bit. I'm not sure what the original rig did, but you can have a look controller where you can move the eyes around. You can make his mouth go happy and sad. You can change the brow's expressions, rotate him back and forth. You can also squash and stretch his eyes a little bit. I wouldn't recommend doing that too much. And that's about it for facial expression. So you can have the character basically look at the ball. I don't do facial animation too much when I first start an animation. I like blocking it out first. So those are the basic controls that we're going to use for the character to get him to kick the ball. And then the next step is to use the storyboards as reference and set, maybe I have, let's see, I have 6 drawings, so I'm going to set 6 main poses, and that might take up 6 seconds. Sometimes storyboards work out to be each one you draw might take a half a second or so for this scene. So this scene will be about 6 seconds long. My first pose is just going to have the character look at the ball. So I'll take a look in my render camera view here and see if the character is in an okay position. You might want to have him be across the screen a little bit, and we could rotate the whole character a little bit as well. We want to be able to see both his eyes. We don't want to put him totally from profile. We want to be able to read that this is a robot ball dude with some eyes, and we want to see the ball. The ball's pretty small. I don't believe we can scale it, so we'll just keep it like that, and then try to make our first pose as strong as possible. Bend the knees when appropriate. Something like this will work. His eyebrows don't look great. I wouldn't worry too much about the eyes right now, but we want to get basic expression. To key these, I want to select all these and just hit the S button to set a key down at frame 1. I also want to go to my animation settings and make sure I'm at 30 frames a second and that my time slider is at real time. Hit save. Now if I want my animation to be about 6 seconds long, at 30 frames a second that would be 180 frames. So I'll go ahead and set my time, start at 0 and end at 180. And I have a key on a subframe here. I don't want that, so I'm going to delete it. I held shift to select a range, right click and hit delete, and then I'm going to set a key at 0, hit the S button, and I'm going to drag and select all my controllers here for the ball and the robot and hit the S button to set a key. And now since I have the auto key button on, each time I change this character it's going to set a key. Now when I start off on doing blockout animation, I like changing my animation keys to be stepped. That's the pop through type method, so there'll be no interpolation. In Maya we won't really see any animation. We're just going to see the poses, and when it hits the next key it'll suddenly pop to the next pose. I like that the best. So under the animation settings, under settings animation, I'm going to change my keys to be flat when they start in the in, and then the out one is going to be stepped, and I'll hit save. And I'll make sure these keys are set to stepped. I'll right click, go to tangents, and then stepped. Looks like that's off the screen, but when you select the key with your right hand, right mouse button, there's a tangent and then a stepped option. So I'll take a look. For my first drawing, this works. Also want to make sure, don't keep your ball straight up and down. Go and rotate it just a little bit, give it a little more visual interest. In nature, back in real life, you usually don't see balls totally straight up and down. They have stripes on them. And now I'm going to go to my next key. So I selected everything, hit the key button, and I'm going to do the contact poses. So he has his left foot forward and his right foot back. I'm going to have him step with his left, well, keep his left foot down and then have his right foot pass. So I'm going to make sure you move your time slider over, maybe around frame 10, or we could hold this for a little bit. We'll keep this here. Maybe we'll hold it for 10 frames and then move over another maybe 15 frames of 25. And then I'll just select his foot and his body. We're going to drag it forward. This foot's going to be forward. Move it something like that. You don't want his leg to break. In this instance, he's getting crossed up, so I'll change over to the perspective view and rotate around, and we're going to get him to walk. So I'll have this foot forward. Let's move his body forward as well, because he's going to step to the ball. Remember to move your knee controllers, your pull vectors for the knee, so your knee doesn't get crossed up like crazy. And we're just going to kind of rough out to see how he's going to step to the ball, to see if he has enough steps or enough distance to get to the ball. So something like that would be a decent contact pose. Let's take a look. As always, you want to look at the render camera and see what that looks like. Something like that will work. So I'm going to select everything and key it. Let's key it at frame 25. And then let's see what our next drawing is. He's going to step with his left foot and get to the ball. So maybe at frame 40 he's going to be there. Maybe a little quicker, 35. Right now we just want to rough it in. So I'll move this foot forward, move his body forward. Also remember to move the knee controllers. You don't want to break his knees. So move the pull vector controllers forward. The translation of these pull vector controllers control the rotation of the legs. So I'll move him forward, maybe give him a little wider stance, and he'll look at the ball. I don't want to show him in profile. I want to make it look like he's looking down at the ball, even though technically he may not be looking straight at the ball in the perspective view. To the camera, it'll look like he's looking at the ball. We want to see both of his eyes. We don't want to see him like this. You want to see his eyes. So we'll do something like that. And let's try to make the pose a little more interesting. Could rotate out his foot, widen his stance some. He's going to use his right foot to kick, so we want to keep that back there, and something like that will work. I'm not going to worry about the eyes yet. So we could take a look at our animation right now. We could use the less than and greater than, or the comma and period buttons, to toggle between the keys. So my first key at 0 is at this pose. That's the same pose, and then it goes over to this one, pops over to this one, and we could play that with the play button, and you should see him popping back and forth between the moves. So we have the first couple poses, and then we'll add the anticipation of the kick back, and then we'll have the kick forward. The ball goes out of frame and he'll look forward. I'm going to add in another hold pose here. Even though I didn't draw it, it'll just help me with my timing. So after he gets to the ball, I'm going to have him look at it for a little bit, maybe to frame 50. And then the next drawing we have is his anticipation. He's going to bring his right foot back to kick the ball. So It's going to bring that back pretty quick, maybe in 5 frames. So let's move his leg back, rotate it up. Don't worry that I'm breaking it. We'll make the body go down, and we'll see how far we can move the leg and still keep it look like it's attached to the character. Make sure we rotate the character back a lot too. So we can translate it back pretty much as far as we can. We can take this knee down a little bit. And at this point, I'm going to have the toe roll back. So the toe roll, select the toe roll with your left mouse button, then use your middle mouse button, drag it left and right, so you'd bend your toe back like this. Looks like he's way off balance. You want to make sure you always look at your poses in multiple views. So look in perspective and then move him around here. We're going to make sure he's going to balance his weight on his planted foot. I'll move his knee. Something like that will work. So this looks good in the perspective view. Let's go back and look in the render cam. Make sure it looks okay in the render cam. Yep, it looks like a kick. Maybe I'll have him go up a little higher. We could even have him go higher here by using the foot roll, so he'd be up off the ground something like that before he kicks. You could rotate the foot around a little bit too. Something like that might be a little stronger pose. And we got some room left in his foot now, so we could have something like that. Key it, and he'll be really fast when he kicks, so maybe just frame like 58 or something. We'll probably want to have a key where he contacts it. So maybe we'll go to 60 for now. And make sure you key everything at 55, and then at 60 he's going to have his foot forward. So don't worry about breaking it. We'll fix it in a minute. Rotate his body forward. He could even maybe hop a little bit. He could be off the ground when he gets his follow through. Rotate the body in the opposite direction. Remember to move our pull vectors for our knees. We don't want to break our knees on the character. And we'll have the toe go in the opposite direction. Just follow through. For doing kicks, it'd be better if we could have a FK controller for the character, but we can get by with the inverse kinematics one for the kick. It'll be real fast. So something like that will work. It's okay that he's facing away from the camera for now. I'm going to key everything, and that'll be his kick pose. He should probably go up more on his foot. So I think if he's going to be up on his foot in this pose before it, so we have more contrast, let's don't have him go up on his foot. So I'm going to select everything, still set key, and I'll hit the back button, and let's make sure he's on the ground first. So I need to move him down on the ground a little bit. Give more contrast to our poses. He goes back to this pose. We could even have him hop off the ground, but for now that's fine. Let's don't forget to just move the ball off screen. Probably want to have it go up and then throw it off screen. So if we scrub through or play through, we can see him step up, anticipates, kicks the ball, and we'll have him land and look at the camera as the last pose. So to get him back to look at the camera, I could just select all of his keys, because we know we have him on the ground over here. I could copy this and paste it over here. Paste, paste, and I want to translate it around about here. Now his left foot won't be in the same pose, so I could go over frame 60, copy this, and paste it here. And then I'll move back the rest of the character over here. And let's have him look at the character. I could have just manually put him down on the ground, but I can reuse my key. I know in the beginning I had him keyed okay. Looks like his back foot is really going to be bent in this pose, so I'll have it move just a little bit forward. If he's happy, maybe he's going to be looking up. So I'll select everything, key it down at frame 70, and let's go back to our facial camera. And I haven't been keying these, so I could put a key. I could select one of my body controllers where I have a key on it, and then hit the S button to set a key. So every time there's a body key, there'll be a face key. So hit the S button here, move back one, hit the S button. And that way we sync up our facial animation keys with our body keys. So for this pose, I want them to be happy. So they have a feeling controller. Oh, he already is happy. Maybe we'll make him squint a little bit. You can raise up his brows. Make the brows go out. You can have him be a little ace. You can have him wiggle his antennas up and down a little bit too. I'll do that kind of in a secondary pass. And maybe he could look right at the camera. He's satisfied with himself. Maybe I'll move him over a little bit this way too. Make him a little asymmetrical is good. So have one brow go higher than the other. Something like that. And to contrast his feeling, we could go, when he's kicking the ball, he could be all serious. Maybe when he starts out, his feeling is all normal. So I'll delete all these keys for now. And have him just be normal feeling, and then when he pops back here, he'll be happy. Key everything. We'll give it a quick playthrough. So those are the basic. Let's see how many poses we have here. We have one pose in the beginning. He goes, steps his right foot forward. He steps his left foot forward. He looks at it. He goes back to anticipate. He goes and kicks forward, and then he lands. So this will be the first step. After I do this one, I'll go through and adjust my timing and make sure I get that solid, and then you can go through, change your keys to linear, see what it looks like in motion, start adding your breakdowns, and eventually you'll turn them into splines and smooth out your motion. But just to get the idea for your animation, this is the way I like starting animation. Have a basic thumbnails, use those thumbnails to make poses, set up your camera, and just get a basic blockout animation. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you out.